Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Adilabad from Knitting 6th semester. Today here to present about my mid-semester assessment of color science. The presentation has been divided into the two sections. The first section is role of color measurement science in knitwear. Here are the contents of first section: introduction, importance, instrument and measurement stages. So first of all, what is knitting? Knitting is defined as technique of fabric formation by interlooping of yarn, and it is the second most famous fabric formation technique after weaving. Knitwear are gaining their importance day by day due to their uniqueness, aesthetics, comfort, and some functional properties. Coloring of knitwear. Most of the knitted fabrics are manufactured by dyed yarn, so dyed yarn is received from spinning mills. However, some of the knitted fabrics are passed through dyeing or for printing processes because these processes require very high temperature, and knitted fabrics can lose their stretch and comfort properties at high temperatures. But nowadays there is a trend that knit and wear because in market many of the machines are introduced which form the seamless garments from yarn. So for these technologies only dyed yarn can be used. Importance of color measurement in knitwear. Color measurement of knitted fabric is considered to be most important because dyed yarn is used and fabric structure influence the color of the end fabric very greatly, because if red yarn is used for a fabric manufacturing, then it is not possible to achieve the same red color of the fabric because knit structure can change the reflection of light from the surface of fabric, and ultimately the color is affected. The example can be seen from here that it is a plain pearl rib fabric manufactured with the same type of yarn, but the plain have more white color. However, pearl have light and rib is more black. So color can be changed by knitted structures. However, friction with the knitting needles and knitting machine elements can also change the color of knitted fabrics. So color measurement is the most important parameter in knitwear. Instrument used for color measurement. Spectrophotometer is a well-known instrument used for color measurement. It consists of a light source, monochromator, and a photodetector. Here it can be seen that it is a light source, then a colorimeter lens, a wavelength selector, detector, and at the end there is a digital display meter which shows the value of color in the form of L, A, and B values or LCH, whatever required. Then different stages of color measurement in knitting. The one thing is clear that customer demand knitwear also by its color specifications, so it becomes very necessary to take the control of colors. In the field of knitting, colors are measured on the many of stages, such as firstly when yarn is received, its color is measured. Then after fabric manufacturing, its color is also measured. Then when the fabric has been relaxed, its color is again measured, and at the end a prototype sample has been developed with respect to customer requirement and its color is also measured. So at each step the color has been measured. The color requirement of customer is very important because customer always specify his order by color, and that is the reason that at every stage of knitting and washing and garment manufacturing the color variation is measured, and if the end product's color is not exact same as the customer requirement, then the yarn dyeing is adjusted with respect to variation which can occur in the path of garment manufacturing, and end color is achieved same. Nowadays several softwares has been developed which show the actual color which will be achieved after processing or stitching of a fabric, so these softwares avoid the loss of material as well as time. Now we are moving toward the section 2 of our presentation, titled as Elements of Color Perception, Description and Mixing. Here are the contents of second section. Firstly, we will discuss introduction and perceptions, then color descriptions, and at the end color mixing systems. First of all, color and its perception. Actually, color is a sensation occurring in the eye when light enters into the eye. Color is perceived by following steps. It can be clearly seen from the figure that light is coming from the sun and reflected from the rose and entering into the viewer's eye. Viewer's eye consists of cones and rods, which are sensitive to the different types of colors, and a photochemical reaction takes place into the eye, and signals are sent to the brain from optical nerves, and the color is perceived. Actually, perception of color is a perception of that object that viewer is seeing. Now mechanism of color perception. The both figure shows that how color can be perceived. Actually, human eye consists of three type of cones: blue, green, and red. When an object is focused at the retina of eye, the wavelength reflected from the light is sensed by three type of cones, or if it is dark, then rod respond to the wavelength. Then the optical nerve sends signal to the brain, and brain perceives the color and perceives that object that a viewer is seeing, actually a ice cream that is focused on the retina of eye. Young-Helmholtz theory, sporting color perception. Actually, Young-Helmholtz theory says that human eye consists of three types of cones. The one set of cones responding to the red color wavelength, second to the blue color wavelength, and third to the green color wavelength. Cones can perceive the color in the light and can also reveal the minor detail of colors because cones are connected to the individual nerve cells, while rod perceive color into the dark, and these cannot reveal the minor detail of color because rods are not connected to the individual nerve cells at the back end. Description of colors. Colors are generally described by three terms: hue, saturation, and value. Hue is termed as any pure color that separates one color from another, such as pink, blue, green, purple, etc. Then saturation. Saturation is a measure of purity of a color. For example, a color is sharp or dull, and saturation is also called the relative brilliance of a color. While value refers to the tint or shade of a color, that either a color is darker or lighter. Munzel color system for color specification and description. Actually, the system was introduced by American scientist named as Albert Munzel. Munzel described the hue, value, and chroma of the color into a three-dimensional plan. In the three-dimensional plan, the center line shows the value of color from 0 black to 10 white, and then a circular scale shows the hue of a color, while the scale moving outward from the center of circle shows the chroma of color, and as we go outward the saturation of color increases. Then there are other many aspects of Munzel color system, but the purpose of describing Munzel color system is here is only that it can describe the hue, value, and chroma of a color visually at a time. Then CIE, XYZ, LANB, LCA system for color description and specifications. The system was developed in 1931 by International Commission of Illuminations. They derived an equation which shows that the three primary colors that can be perceived from the human eye, blue, red, and green, are equal to white or hue, and the hue value remains always 1. For example, for white color, the equal proportion of green, red, and blue can be added to form a white color. Then the equation can be written in the form of XYZ format also. Let's see the XYZ format. Here is the x, y, and z representation of the equation of CIE, where capital X shows the red, capital Y shows green, and capital Z shows blue, while small x, y, and z shows the proportion of red, green, and blue to form the hue C. For example, for red hue, the 0.66 of red, 0.25 of green, and 0.083 of blue is consumed, but actual hue remains 1. Similarly, the L and A and B values can also be shown into the equation, which are followed by the opponent color theory, where L represents the brightness of the color, A and B represent the redness, greenness, yellowness, and blueness of the color. The one limitation of CAE lab formula for color description is that it actually describes the color in the form of X, Y, and Z primary color values which can be perceived by human eye, but it does not show the brightness of the color. For showing the brightness, a separate scale known as Y scale has been developed, which 0 shows the zero brightness while 100 shows the pure white color. Color mixing systems. Actually, color mixing is a technique of formation of new color by mixing present colors. For example, two primary colors can be mixed to form a secondary color. while primary and secondary colors can be mixed to form a tertiary color. Color mixing systems are of two types: additive color mixing and subtractive color mixing. Additive color mixing. In additive color mixing, the new color is produced by mixing the wavelength of light, and these wavelengths of lights are focused on a white screen. For example, this phenomenon occurs in the television. By focusing on the white screen, the no part of color is subtracted from the wavelength, and generally the three colors red, blue, and green are generally used for the additive color mixing. For example, red plus green forms a yellow, and similarly other combination form different colors. The second one type is subtractive color mixing. In subtractive color mixing, the new color is produced by subtracting a wavelength of light from a broad spectrum of light wavelengths. In this technique, the reflection properties of lights are used that two colors are mixed, and after mixing, the color reflects a wavelength which is common for both colors. This method is generally used for dyes and pigments. For example, if we do subtractive color mixing of magenta and yellow, the red color is achieved. Similarly, there are other mixing patterns that can be seen from the figure as well as from the smart art. Conclusion. Colors specify a noticeable importance in the field of textiles because textile goods are always known by their colors and aesthetics, and similarly is in the case of knitwear industry because the industry has to focus on the customer demands and quality, so the color measurement is always kept in the mind. Although human eye have a special system to perceive colors, but industry there are different terms and devices used to describe and measure colors in a viable manner so that trusted values can be achieved which can satisfy customer as well as industry. Here are the reference sources from which the animations or the images has been collected, as well as some information also has been collected from these sources, while other information has been taken from the course and lecture delivered by the teacher. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.